Creativity is not a personality trait, and it is not a talent reserved for artists, writers, or people who identify as creative types. Creativity is a basic function of the human mind. It is the capacity to form new connections, imagine possibilities beyond what already exists, and translate inner experience into external form. Imagination is the mechanism through which creativity operates. Before a single word is written, imagination is already at work. It moves through images, sensations, fragments of memory, emotional tone, and intuitive knowing. Imagination does not speak in complete sentences. It speaks in impressions. Writing is the process of listening closely enough to those impressions that language can begin to take shape around them. One of the biggest misunderstandings about creativity is the belief that it should feel instant, inspired, or effortless. In reality, creativity is responsive. It responds to attention. It responds to permission. And it responds to whether the nervous system feels safe enough to explore without being immediately evaluated. When creativity feels blocked, it is rarely because imagination has stopped working. It is usually because the mind has shifted into monitoring mode. Instead of allowing ideas to emerge, it begins scanning for correctness, usefulness, or outcome. This creates tension, and tension disrupts creative flow. Imagination does not move linearly. It does not begin with a clear destination. It begins with curiosity. When the mind demands certainty too early, imagination withdraws. Writing then feels forced, empty, or disconnected. This is why many people say they used to be creative but no longer are. Creativity was never lost. The conditions changed. Expectations replaced exploration. Performance replaced play. The inner space where imagination once moved freely became constrained by pressure. Writing, at its core, is an act of translation. Something nonverbal is being shaped into language. That process requires patience and openness. It cannot happen efficiently when the mind is rushing toward a result. Imagination also plays a critical role in meaning-making. The human mind naturally organizes experience into narrative. Memories are recalled as stories. Emotions are carried through metaphor. Even identity itself is shaped by the internal narratives we repeat over time. When you write, you are interacting directly with this internal storytelling mechanism. This is why writing can feel vulnerable, even when the content seems neutral. You are not simply producing text. You are revealing how your mind organizes reality. Creativity exposes inner patterns that often operate beneath conscious awareness. Because of this, many creative blocks are protective rather than resistant. The mind may hesitate when it senses potential exposure or uncertainty. Understanding this allows you to work with creativity instead of fighting it. Imagination thrives in environments where curiosity is prioritized over control. When you approach writing as an exploration rather than a test, ideas begin to surface more naturally. The role of the writer at this stage is not to judge what appears, but to notice it. Creativity does not require you to know where you are going. It requires you to be present with what is emerging. Writing becomes a dialogue between attention and expression, rather than a demand for immediate coherence. As you move through this course, you will learn how to recognize when imagination is active, how to stay with it long enough for language to form, and how to separate the creative phase from the refining phase. For now, the most important shift is understanding that creativity is not something you force into existence. It is something you allow space for. And writing begins when you stop trying to control what wants to come through, and instead learn how to listen.